Well, hey, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Checking to see that mic's working. Yeah, welcome to the BlueGamer Bluecast morning show. I am your host, Adam Blue, professional video game enthusiast. Maybe that's the term I've been looking for. But yeah, for over 30 years, so I have a lot to talk about in the world of gaming. Not only industry insights, but also just with the variety of games I play. I also do have a few cool connections that I've made years ago with some developers and publishers. So I'm able to get some knowledge and be able to share that here. So I have a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, we'll get started. Oh man, my hair is great. So the stream started a little late because there was something I had to help my son with at school. So I went there and I was doing that for a bit. They're having their field day thing going on, so that's kind of fun. But video games. So it is Friday, and I think we've had kind of a bad week with video games. Not much news, not much interesting news-wise. Again, the industry's recovering, and it's going to take a while as we see that there's still layoffs occurring. That's been a big topic this week. In fact, there were some podcasts later, this week that I just didn't listen to because the title was Xbox Bad Management. And it doesn't matter who it is. It was happening when Sony's CEO left, and everyone was like speculating. Like, I think it's because I've been following games for so long that when that is the news, I get tired and move on because it's never productive, right? But today we're going to be productive. So first of all, I've been playing more V Rising. So that's the vampire survival game that's like it looks like Diablo. I think that's an easy way to explain it in terms of its isometric view, the camera, and how you kind of utilize the UI and management. But it has the building aspects on top of it, similar to the what was that called? The Viking Survivor game that came out like a year or so ago in early access. It's similar to that. Similar to even, in ways like Age of Empires, just because of building the walls and stuff. Because you can build a gigantic multi-floored castle. You also have a coffin you build that you can sleep in during the day. And that's just the tip of it. I haven't even gotten to that part. Because right now what it is I am just trying to survive. I have like just a bare bones heart of a castle, and I'm going out getting not only resources I need to continue building, but also and it's a huge open map, and there are certain types of living creatures I have to go and get the blood from. So there's multiple resources that it's very interesting how it works. You also use the blood in the castle. It's almost like a way to energize it. Like I put blood in the castle and it says this will be in production for another 4 hours. So it's like I have to always make sure I'm giving it blood. But it's cool because there's a sawmill, and then you put wood, and then the wood becomes planks. And then with the planks, you can build a workbench. With a workbench, I can upgrade. It's that type of thing. And I don't mind it. It depends on what it's wrapped around. And this being like this action vampire game is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. And, not that it needs to be vampires, but this is an example of the game mechanics matching kind of the lore or the narrative, the world that you're in, and it kind of helps give it another layer of fun on top of that. I'm just excited to get into the Castlevania stuff. I think we talked about that a little bit yesterday. And then other than that, speaking of Castlevania, I went through the end of Harmony of Dissonance again because, like I said, this is the second time I accidentally corrupted the save file trying to get my syncing it's like this syncing master network that I'm trying to do, and I realize I am doing more than these systems are even capable of because there's just things where the sync tools break down. Anyway, so I'm just playing Harmony of Dissonance again. I said this I think the last 8 streams. That is a fun game. So I'll move on from that. So the other thing what's interesting about the retro handheld consoles is once I got my first, the RGB30, that had an HDMI out, and so my thing was, okay, that's cool. I can have it where I can have it, plugged into a display like the TV in the living room, Bluetooth a controller to it, and play that way. What was weird, though, I could never get a Bluetooth controller to work, so I was just, disappointed. So then I bought this other HDMI out retro handheld, the RG35XXH. It has HDMI out, Bluetooth a controller to it, but the UI, what was it that was messing up with that one? I think it had to do with the UI or getting my files on it, like it would not be the one that I would be able to. So basically, in its Linux operating system, with a custom firmware or even its stock firmware, it's just very limited in what it can do. So I couldn't make full use of it. So then I was like, well, I have my, and I have it right here because I always have it with me. It's my Android phone on this badass controller. Let me HDMI out that. And that does work, but for some reason, I am seeing a full screen issue with specifically RetroArch. So like, Android displays full screen fine until I launch RetroArch. Yeah, I think I said RetroArch. I think it's RetroArch. And it will open the small window. It's like, oh, I just need to scale that. But unfortunately, the way the app was designed, it wasn't designed in mind with extending your display with a phone. I could mirror the display, but then the display doesn't match. So you see, I run into all these things and I don't know what to do. And then randomly, well, the RGB30 came out with new software, so I upgraded. And then even though it didn't work the first few attempts, I finally got a Bluetooth controller working on the RGB30. So now my RGB30 is the main console I have HDMI outed into a display here in my office. So that will be the one, like if we go on trips, because sometimes we go to Airbnbs and stuff, that would be an awesome thing to just have small plug HDMI into a TV, just get some Bluetooth controllers to hopefully work. I got this one to work. I have to try to get the others because I had 3 Stadia controllers, and I did the thing when it shut down where you could then modify them to then work as a regular Bluetooth controller. So yeah, that's a pretty neat thing. So I have extra Bluetooth controllers, but it's the matter of getting them to work on everything. So all right, that was really it with gaming stuff I got into. So let's jump into the news. Okay. Oh, well, here we go. Around 30 people laid off in CI Games' final round of job cuts. So fortunate, but this is what's going to be happening. We're seeing a huge restructuring of the industry, which is probably best for the industry. I think it's stagnated with the with these giant budgeted games. Xbox Mobile Store to launch this summer. Oh, speaking of Xbox being gone and closing down. So I guess the idea, and I thought you could already do this, but maybe not. See, this is another area where you would think Xbox is ahead, but Sony is, because Sony already has it easy with their app. You can just buy and download. And it's like you can download with Xbox with the app, but then you can't do anything until you buy it. And I guess it wasn't done on mobile, but now it will be. So let's see. Xbox President Sarah Bond revealed the news at the Bluebird Technology Summit on Thursday, during which she shared that the store will only be available on the web to begin with, to rival mobile storefronts such as Apple and Google Play. Then how come the PSN thing works, or the PlayStation app works? Maybe no. Yeah, I've bought stuff on the PlayStation app. That's interesting. We're doing that because it really allows us to have it be an experience accessible across all devices, all countries, no matter what, independent of the policies of closed ecosystem stores. Huh. So maybe the PlayStation app is able to do what it can because it has restrictions on top, and the reason Xbox never went that far is because they didn't have the restrictions. I don't know. I don't know what the case is, but that makes sense. Interesting. It's just kind of disappointing when there's all these like arbitrary things that, are in the way, but it gets worked out. God of War Ragnarok will reportedly be announced for PC imminently. So interesting, because if you guys aren't aware, Helldivers 2 is still blocked in those countries that were mentioned. That hasn't been fixed yet. I think they need to get that fixed before this is released. I guess, it's like it wasn't an issue before, and that's the thing. Sony would want that extra money, so there's obviously reasons that they haven't done this in other countries yet. But then when you have it where people are able to get this stuff, and then they can't, that's a little disappointing. Again, it just, bottom line, try to make these games available for anybody, and that's your best bet. Switch 2 tech specs may have been found in customs and shipping data. So So this is the thing that we are expecting to happen right now. If they're going into production for manufacturing the Switch 2, we're going to start seeing some leaks, especially because of how big the Switch is. Like, I wonder if the Xbox numbers were nearly as close as they were to Switch numbers. Would more Xbox emulation be working on PC? You know, that's what I'm wondering. Or is it really just Nintendo makes very easy to hack hardware? Let's see. Members of the Fama Boards Forum have been tracking customs and shipping data for some time now in an attempt to find out information on shipments being sent between Nintendo, Nvidia, and other parts manufacturers. According to some members, shipping information from March, which has only recently been made publicly available, has now turned up references to a number of shipments with new code names, which they believe refer to components for the next Nintendo console. One listing is for a 6 gigabyte RAM chip, of which 2 will reportedly be used for a total of 12 gigabytes of RAM. Okay. And that almost doesn't matter as much anymore with the way, I guess, graphics are then being rendered. Like, I think you could get away with that to do some cool stuff. It's unclear if it's DDR5 or the 5X. And see, that's the thing. It could be that, and then that would make sense. By comparison, the original Switch had 4 gigabytes of R4. Okay. Which ran at speeds of up to blah, blah, blah. And that's when I don't know what that means. Okay. In terms of, like, I can't really wrap my head around that. Another listing suggests the Switch's built-in storage will be 256 gigabytes. Okay. And will be UFS 3.1, which means potential read speeds of up to that. Yeah, that would be a lot better. See, that I can wrap my head around the difference there. While at this stage, it's impossible to tell exactly how this will play out in terms of the actual performance of the Nintendo 6 console. The data suggests it will be significantly more powerful than that of its predecessor. Let's see, comparisons with other consoles are far less straightforward, particularly because Nintendo 6 console will use NVIDIA tech and ARM architecture versus AMD tech and x86 architecture in Xbox and PlayStation consoles. And that could change. The reported storage speed of Xbox Series X. Oh, it comes close. Okay. Let's see. It's also currently unclear how much the Switch successful will make use of NVIDIA's DLSS upscaling technology. So that's what I'm thinking is going to be going on. That's what Sony is pushing with this PS5 Pro. It's really all about the software kind of taking care of things that you would normally have the hardware do, which is just really what's been going on anyway. I mean, even a lot of this generative AI is technically software things taking care of people physically doing things. It's kind of similar. And then it's got the June Nintendo Direct this year. Although it's stressed that the presentation won't include any information, because I was about to say I wouldn't be surprised if it did, but they're confirming it wouldn't, so I would have been wrong. Okay, excited about Switch 2. I really am. Just because then it's going to be way more powerful, and developers and publishers know how it's probably better to be releasing the games on Nintendo platforms, so we could see a lot more cool stuff. With more power to be used. Global release for Persona 5, The Phantom X is being considered. Not too sure about that. It's a mobile and PC spinoff. Yeah, it sounds like Persona is popular here in the US. I've just never... I don't think I can get into it, but I could. Let's see. Sony's PC learning curve hits an incline. Well, I've got to say, I'm shocked. Like, when Sony was releasing their previous games, God of War and Spider-Man, they did it with PC hardware in mind, and that says more than most game companies releasing games in the first place. Like, all the issues we had with, like, Jedi Survivor when it first came out, Elden Ring when it first came out. Sony's good in that space. They really know how to make sure a game, and that's their philosophy, and that is with the production value, where I don't think that's always a good philosophy to, I guess, rely on, but in terms of their PC releases, it's worked, because they've released the games in good state. Some more layoffs. Yeah, it's going to happen. Lightforge Games. Okay. Fallout 4 ruling again. Capcom reporting record profits. A lot of this news is the same as yesterday because I don't think there's too much going on. Japanese input. Okay, so yeah, with confirms every first-party game will still launch in Game Pass, including Call of Duty. That's cool. Electronic Arts is toying with the idea of ads in games again, and it's kind of weird to think how long like the cable TV business ran and was successful for, and it's almost like we're going back to that because that is kind of the balance of, okay, here's content for people to watch, but we have to make a certain amount of money. Here's some ads in games. I can almost see if you're accessing it through a subscription service, but if I'm buying the game outright, I wouldn't want that. Unless it's, and I don't mind this aspect, some people do. If I'm playing a real world game and there are real world ads in it, that's fine. To me, that is immersive. I know some people are like, oh, it takes me out of the experience. And I'm like, look, if I'm playing a Spider-Man game and there's an ad for Coca-Cola, that's not going to take me out of experience. That's going to make me feel more integrated into the world. If I'm playing Dead Space and maybe the guy's using TikTok, and it's like, well, by that time in the future in space, that's unless it's more of like, let's say it's an advertisement for some sort of electronic device or something, and they're able to kind of, I don't know. I'm not too against that stuff. It just really depends how tasteful it is. I was watching Columbo yesterday, and he went into and it's funny, like tell you later, Columbo is not as good. The acting is great. Peter Falk is great. But the stories, either it's not good or maybe it's this other thing I've learned about gaming where, Columbo went on for 40 years about, and it's like the later episodes tend to do the same things from the early episodes, but it's setting up the plot to be like, oh, it's obvious it's going to be this sort of thing. For instance, there was a murder and it was made to look like a suicide, but Columbo was able to see the guy had done things that someone wouldn't do that's about to commit suicide, like use mouthwash. And they show a wide shot of him picking up the mouthwash and looking at it. And then they did a close-up shot of the mouthwash, and it was like a name brand mouthwash. But then when they went back to that wide shot of him holding it, I could look at the label and tell it was just something generic. And that was done very well because I recognized the brand of mouthwash. So then next time I need to think of mouthwash, I'd think of that. I thought that was done well, even though I noticed it and it did take me out. Let's see. Let me move to some stuff that I found. So Unity restructuring increases losses to $291 million, which that's Cerveza Cristal. That's that. Hey, Steven. Yeah, it from the Star Wars. I think like in Peru or somewhere in South America where they did that, where Obi-Wan picks up a beer. Yeah, it's pretty good. They like edit that in. So this is interesting about Unity. Increases losses is a funny way to say it because what I think is really interesting about all this stuff, especially with like Unity, is how Unity like got to a point where they realized, okay, we're not going to be making money if we keep doing this. We have to come up with a new way, a new structure, and they started doing that where there was going to be like, I guess, I forget, that like fee or royalties paid back, I guess, to Unity that would end up being quite a bit, and people were displeased with it. So they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't know what we'll do. And I mean, they're still losing a lot, even with the restructuring. It's just strange to me because even though Unity has a tool made for developing games, that is still a different world than game development. Because, yeah, it's software development, which I think is a similarity to it. But it's not beholden, I guess, to this necessarily the same economic restrictions that might come about when restructuring a business. Because the way Unity works, it's like available for so many people to use. It might just be that is the problem. They almost made too much of it where they're just kind of giving it away. And with the way maybe, I wonder if it then has to do with the way publishers and developers have been working that then affected Unity's whole plan, but it's the publishers that are looking for these super increased budgets that then somehow maybe create some sort of rift between Unity and high-end game development that then put Unity in this weird place. But then you think then that would change, because if things are changing to where the bigger studios are going to be doing less, one, using Unity as an engine would make sense, especially for smaller developers right now. And I think within the next year of game releases, it's going to be an easier spotlight for smaller games. And I think Unity should be doing better then. But speaking of smaller games, I just came across this. 90s anime meets roguelike side-scrolling beat-em-up adventure. This all sounds awesome. In this game, the line between villain and hero is blurred as you guide the protagonist, Fudo, through intense combat and complex choices on his journey to redemption. I didn't need to read that sentence. It didn't help me understand the game. Okay, if you're a fan of the nostalgic beat-em-up games of yesteryear, think along the lines of classics like Mortal Kombat. What is this? What is this? It's a fighting game. I wouldn't say it's a beat-em-up, but then the new roguelike game Immortal and the death that follows might just catch your interest. Drawing inspiration from fighting games and 90s anime, it offers a unique blend of old and new, all wrapped with a distinctive narrative twist. So, see if it has anything interesting. Like, unfortunately, the screenshot is just a lot of stuff going on. It's really hard to see what is happening, but we got this guy here did a swing of this giant weapon, and this guy potentially blocking. Okay, here's this little video here. So this is what I saw. I thought was pretty cool. So, oh, okay, I guess I gotta click on here. So this is seeing the guy doing, what looks like a multi-hit combo. So this is pretty cool. If this is, a matter of button presses to like pull this off, which is cool game mechanics for me personally. Interesting. It would be cool to check this out. Let's see. Is there any information? Oh, this is cool. Let's look at this. Yeah, I see where they're talking about the anime inspiration, which is cool. Okay, the game underwent closed testing about a year ago. Although the release date is still unknown, you can already add it to your wish list on Steam. Okay, so that's good to know. No release date yet, but it had a test about a year ago, so that's a good sign. So, action 2D. So, it does say 2D fighter and beat 'em up. That's neat. I feel like there's more that the fighting genre and beat 'em up genre can do, and I think Street Fighter 6 was kind of doing that, but not fully. Pretty neat. Well, let's see if there was anything else. Any other? Oh, what's this? Bootleg Steamer. I mean, this might just, just looking at the screen, it doesn't really look like my type of game, but this looks kind of neat just in terms of it's like, it might be like a steamboat management sim. That doesn't exist. That's a great idea. And it has roguelike aspects. Yeah, there we go. Okay. That's something interesting. Well, let's see if there's any other interesting game announcements. Nintendo president, game development to become longer and more complex. Oh, that's interesting. What do they have to say about that? President Shuntaro Furukawa, I think I did pretty good on that, in a Q&A session with investors, expects that video game development will take longer and will get more complex in order to enhance the value of our IP from a long-term perspective and continue to offer. Okay, so that's good, long-term perspective, and continue to offer unique entertainment, and that's another good one. We will continue to aggressively secure the necessary development resources. While there are other means of expanding development resources, such as M&A, we would like to first develop personnel who understand the Nintendo brand. Damn, that's like the way to speak at an executive level, because it's not necessarily super buzzword, but it's kind of things that, like, yeah, let's look long term How could we make our offerings unique? And by doing that, we need to develop personnel who understand the Nintendo brand. That is excellent stuff. That's what you want to hear. And it's shortened to the point too. I'm sure the whole thing wasn't, but there's some of those, the language used, because a lot of times when you hear CEOs and execs and they're talking about what their initiatives are for the future, maybe a stakeholder asks a question about something, usually the answer is more of a non-answer with a lot of corp speak. So I appreciate that. And then we see something like a company raising $5 million in seed funding. So, and that's why things can work. You just gotta plan it out right, and the industry can be fine. So, Jurassic World Evolution, the third one, never played any of them, but I would like to. Oh, the ROG Ally X. So, yeah, I talked about that a little bit yesterday. They did announce everything about it, and it's not really much that's different from what I understand. I think they said that it's going to have replaceable joystick modules, which is close to the replaceable controllers completely. I think that's a good step in the right direction. So, well, yeah, I think that's about it. Not too much news, but some cool things to talk about. Let me know below what you would be playing this weekend. I think I'm going to play more V-Rising, and that might be really it. That game's got me, and I think that might be the game of this weekend. So, well, I hope you all enjoyed this. Hope you have a good rest of the day, a good weekend, and talk to you all on Monday. Peace out.